I am so excited to share the next recording with you on Clean Life Collective. I had the chance to interview one of my dearest friends who I've known for 12 years, but somebody who literally is the quintessential Mediterranean. We all want to eat that Mediterranean diet because we know it is the key to longevity. She has done it for 30 years. She moved here from Morocco in 1996 and has found her way to living that Mediterranean lifestyle in the United States for over 30 years. So I can't wait for you to listen in and get her tips. She breaks it down for us and even how she has been able to pass that on to her child. Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for joining one of the inaugural conversations on the Clean Life Collective channel. This is a place where I'm going to host many conversations with people that I truly admired and that are living the mission of CLC, which is to help people live healthier, happier lives. In fact, I want to help you get really, really good at eating healthy and living that healthy lifestyle. And one of the number one diets that is well known for doing that really well is the Mediterranean diet. And that is why I am so thrilled today to have one of my best friends, Hanane Lemlih, is here with me today. And she is a woman that I admire, not only for her incredible success in her business, that she is an amazing mother to her teenage daughter and a beautiful wife, but also as someone who eats that Mediterranean diet and lives that Mediterranean lifestyle despite having been in the United States for 30 years. So, Hanane, we want to dive into this conversation with you today. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up and how have you found your way to living this Mediterranean life in the United States?
So I was born in 1971 in Morocco, Casablanca. And, the Mediterranean diet or lifestyle is just life for us, right? So
Yes.
Grew up having 3 meals a day. When you're a child, a lot of times you have 4 meals a day. When you come back from school, you have like a little something before dinner. So I remember all my memories are around the table. Food is a big part of the Mediterranean lifestyle, although talking about food and why it's good for you or not good for you is not a part of the Mediterranean lifestyle.
Exactly.
So, I remember we all have childhood things we like, that our parents cooked, or I remember those. I remember.
What would be your favorites?
So my favorite as a child was always chicken with preserved lemon and olives, which funny enough, it's my daughter's also her favorite is the same. I mean, it is a unique flavor and most kids like it actually. That's like a very popular dish with kids in Morocco. I don't know why, but that's the main. Maybe once or twice a week you would have that.
Wow.
Kids, if you have kids. If you don't have kids, you'll have it every couple of weeks. But any household that has kids will cook the chicken with olives and preserved lemon.
What was the traditional breakfast growing up in Morocco?
Breakfast was bread. Bread's always made at home, especially when we were kids. Now there are a lot of boulangeries and what you can buy really good bread everywhere. It used to be not as popular. Actually, very funny or maybe something you don't know about Morocco. There was, when I was growing up, there were not a lot of bakeries, but there are a lot of what we call public ovens. So people who made bread at home actually took it to be baked at these places. And the reason is it's firewood. It's heated with firewood. So you take your bread every day. Families make bread, take it there. It gets cooked and then they bring it back.
This is very different than what we have in the United States.
Right. So fast forward, 45 years later or 40 years later, those still exist in some rural areas. And so when we go back, we go visit them. And there are still families in those areas that take the bread because you can't cook the bread the same way, according to them, in gas fire versus wood fire. So clearly bread was a big part of what we
Well,
ate.
that's incredible. I believe you because I've been at your house and I have had the privilege of enjoying some of your amazing bread that you cook and that your husband cooks.
Yes.
And so you're telling me, so as a child, the bread was made from scratch. The dinners were chicken with lemon and they sound so delicious. What were things that you had as snacks as a young child?
Snacks would be after school, a piece of bread with cheese. It would be maybe cookies my mother made at home. But a lot of times it's bread with olive oil and olive.
So I don't hear a lot of ultra processed foods.
No, actually, in fact, there were none. When we were kids, you couldn't even buy chips. Like
Wow.
you couldn't go. There are not a lot of supermarkets the way that there are supermarkets now that are big and have all of those things, right? But it was very rare to buy anything that's in a bag. Like we made our own popcorn. You put, oil on the stove and you put your popcorn and you pop it. So it was
kernels in there. That's amazing.
Yes, everything. And when I go back now, a lot of people still do that. No one buys bagged popcorn.
That's incredible.
Actually, it's hard to find bagged popcorn. You can find it, but it's harder, and it's just everyone's used to it. It's so easy. So one of the things that I did learn moving to the US and living here for 30 years is the first time, we bought bread and you're like, okay, we have to make our own bread. So one of the first things we bought was a KitchenAid mixer.
Okay, great.
So, but my point is, if you make bread every few days, it becomes a part of what you do and you don't even think about it. Right? Friends coming over, how do you make bread all the time?
Right.
You just have to get in the habit of doing it, and then it becomes a part.
Well, that's interesting because, of course, I remember the story you told me in 1996. You and your husband moved from, at the time, France, because you went from Morocco to France, lived in Paris, studied in Paris.
We had Toulouse, south of France. We had my husband and I met in high school in Morocco. Then we went to college in France. So we lived in France 5 years and a half before we moved to the US. We were 24.
So you come to the United States at 24 years old, 1996, and you come to find out my favorite story, which is that mustard wasn't mustard, that bread wasn't the same, which of course you just alluded to with getting your own KitchenAid to start making it from scratch. And then lastly, I love this story that creme fraiche turned out to be
Cool. Well, we went to buy creme fraiche, and because I wanted to make a quiche, and we didn't know what it was. So we saw Cool Whip. It's literally Cool. It said Cool Whip on it. I'm like, okay, it sounds it looks like creme fraiche.
Anyway, and at this stage, your English was not
good.
Right.
So we figured it out once we brought it. But the biggest thing that I still remember is we made a salad with shredded carrots and some greens and green olives, and we started eating and made a vinaigrette and started eating it. And I'm like, why is this sweet? And Chris was like, I don't know. What did you put in it? I didn't put anything. It's the same vinaigrette. It's lemon, olive oil, and mustard.
Yeah.
So I said, maybe it's the carrots that are sweet. Then we tried the vinaigrette and it was the mustard.
Oh.
Because
mustard. Oh, the mustard. That's right. Because it was honey mustard.
So one of the things that now we know when we have visitors or, the honey mustard, the sweet honey, does not really exist anywhere, anywhere else. Or even in France, because we moved from France. You can find it in like American aisle for like hot dogs and things. But if you don't know, you buy mustard, you make your vinaigrette with it, and you eat it. And by the way, there was no Dijon mustard. This was in New York. It's not like now when everywhere you go, it clearly says Dijon mustard, right? So you can figure it out. That wasn't the case. It was a bunch of mustard, and we did think it was unusually yellow, but we didn't think about the taste. We had never tasted it, right?
Oh my gosh!
So that was the first. Okay, we have to learn how to shop, because this is not going to be.
Okay, so you start to find your way slowly how to incorporate the Moroccan foods, the Mediterranean foods into your American life.
Mm-hmm.
And now here we are, 30 years later, and you have a teenage daughter, and you yourself grow food in your backyard. You and your husband have your own garden, and you've made every effort to sort of be able to live in this Mediterranean way within living in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
One question I have for you is, what do you think when you see this obsession with the Mediterranean diet in the United States?
Yeah.
What is your opinion on that?
Yeah. I think, first of all, I don't think it's a diet. I think it's a lifestyle. It's a way to live. It's not something that is intentional.
Yeah.
In the Mediterranean, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as I said earlier, you don't really talk about protein or fat or fiber. It's what are we eating? Oh, we're eating this dish, right? And then it just happens that it's fresh vegetables and meat, some sort of protein,
right.
Whether it's fish or meat or chicken. And that is the biggest difference I see now is everyone talking about this Mediterranean diet. And I wish it was more Mediterranean way or not diet,
right.
because no one thinks about it as
well. Truthfully, we were discussing this recently when you and I were together at a women's health panel. We were talking about how the difference in Europe and the Mediterranean is the mindset. It's cultural. Because we now have gotten so far off and so far away from understanding what natural foods look like and how to make them taste delicious, because our lifestyles are so fast-paced here that we got to a point where we started to rely on these really quick, ultra-processed foods that have now made many of us so sick. And that same amount of chronic disease is not seen in these European and Mediterranean countries. When you still have family that are in Morocco, you have family that are in Europe, have those cultures been inundated yet with the American way, where we know there's not McDonald's over there? Do you see
McDonald's?
Yeah.
So I think that's a great question, but because when we go back, we have people that are our generation, our friends who were in high school with us who live there. And then, they invite us to their house. We go and they still eat the same way.
Wow.
It's still the same.
They don't have like the Doritos in the house and the Fritos in the house and ordering the DoorDash or McDonald's.
The Doritos are hard to find in Morocco because you can't, we try to have someone taste them one year and I looked at everyone like, okay, I give up. He's like, I don't know what Doritos. I'm like, there's no way you don't know what Doritos are. And I looked for them and I couldn't find them. I found all sorts of chips, but not. So I think that lifestyle stayed. I mean, we go back very often, even to south of France, and one of the things, having my daughter she was born here, but when we travel, when she was little, everyone's like, oh, how does she sit at the table? Remember, at 2 years old, And then when she goes there, every kid is sitting at the table for 2 hours.
Right.
Because
for a 2-hour dinner. And we don't ever take the time to sit and enjoy a dinner like that.
It's a part of what you do. You just need to have that in your lifestyle.
Yes, in your culture.
And then you never think that's too much.
Well, I really want to talk about that in detail for a minute, because first of all, I used to say the number one way to get indigestion is to try to sit down and have dinner with my kids. Because it was so fast. I'd be like, they're done in 5 minutes. But that's not the case when you go to Europe. And you see people out at 10 p.m. with their babies, and they're all sitting outside of these open air markets and eating.
Yes.
So one of the things I want to ask you about is backing up to when you had your baby in the United States. You had your daughter and you're at the pediatrician. Was there anything that surprised you about the recommendations for how to feed the baby when she was born?
It started when I was pregnant. My doctor said I can't have nuts and I can't have certain fish and I can't have, all of these things.
Right.
And so I talked to my sister who's a doctor, and I talked to some other people who are doctors either in Morocco or France or just family, and it's different, right? So I actually bought a book that's called, you probably heard about it, Raising Bébé, because somebody told me, just get that. It will show it. You'll see the differences in food.
No, I've never heard of this. This is a French manual?
It's an American woman who lived in France. One of her kids was born here and one there, and then she's comparing, right? So I did, and I've been buying that for every baby shower I went after that.
I need that.
Yes.
I need it.
To see.
I need it now.
But what it addresses is really not just the food; it's the culture. Okay, so when your child is born, you take the child and you go on with your life. You go to a restaurant, you're taking a 6-month-old. You're going over.
You're not following the sleep schedule?
They learn how to sleep. So one of the things my own mother, who was with me, as you know, lived with me for over a year. She was my nanny for the first year. She said to me, the baby has to learn to sleep when there is noise. Because if you teach her to sleep, in a quiet room, then you will never be able to do anything. And that's true. I've walked into a friend's house and you can't talk, you can't. So that is a difference in culture. The babies just start going with you. Then, to answer your question for the pediatrician, when Amelia turned 1, I stopped making her food. So everything we're eating I just cut, she had like a cup of tea.
Even at 1, right.
At 1 year old, I would cut everything in pieces, small pieces, and put it in front of her, and she would eat. If I felt like she didn't eat enough, I would give her some more like pureed. But we never bought anything, meaning made for her.
Right.
We always made her food. When she's 6 months. That was also.
So you didn't live on the pouches?
No pouches. No. but also.
What about formula? Did you use formula?
I did not. It was breastfeeding, and then she went. Amelia is not big on milk, and I wonder if it's because she didn't have formula. I don't know. I worked, but still pumped and did all of that for a year. And then I stopped at 11 months, but I had enough for 12 months, and then she just started having regular milk. Okay. Yes. The reason for that is I bought a few formulas and I smelled them. I'm like, I don't want to drink them.
It was for you. Right. It works well for some people.
But I didn't think I was going to do that. Actually, I was looking for formula and I had friends whose kids did a lot.
You worked full time.
Yes, I worked full time, and so I was looking for a formula that would work, but I just couldn't do it. And I just said, you know what? Yes, 5 months and then 6 months. But when I was pregnant, I said, I'm going to breastfeed for 3 months and then it's going to be formula.
Wow. Yeah.
But, anyway, somehow I was able to.
And so then the pediatrician started giving you these recommendations about like, don't give her honey or don't give her nuts or what.
Until she's 3, I think, but we didn't do any of that and I told my pediatrician, I said, where I'm from, everyone eats that. Like, at a young age, honey, all kids like honey and, on bread with butter. I mean, I can, and she didn't agree with me, but she said, if you want to do it, it's at your own risk, but also the allergies with the nuts. And I said, we don't have allergies. Like nuts are predominant in Moroccan food in general, right? So there are a lot of the cookies that the kids like have nuts in them.
Right.
So I still don't understand what that allergy thing is because every single kid I know, when we were kids, everyone ate nuts.
Right.
So when you walk into a house,
to be more of a recent phenomenon.
Yeah. So the nuts are around.
In fact, we discovered my son's nut allergy at your house when Franklin touched the walnuts.
I know so I was going to say, in fact, you walk into a house, it's a nut danger zone because they put a big bowl like that and they keep walnuts.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because that's a mainstay in the Mediterranean diet.
Yes.
And why do you think that is?
I think, there is no health benefit attached to the discussion. Does that mean tastes good? It tastes good. All. You taught me how healthy my food is. I've told you all the time. I'm like, wow, okay, cumin has this benefit, curcuma has this benefit.
Yes.
But I didn't know before then. I just eat it because it tastes good, right? And that's really what the Mediterranean lifestyle is. Food is a part of enjoying the company, enjoying the time together. And I think it helps that it's in 3 steps. Like you just don't put everything on the table and start eating. It's always, and it's not just one thing, right? It's always, you have a salad, so you eat, that's like, it takes some time, then you get your entry, and typically there's like sides, and then you sit at the table, you bring the fruits, and you eat your fruits together.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a little anecdote. Amelia, my daughter, came home a couple of years ago and said, oh my God, we take too much time to eat. I said, why? She said, we just went through something at school and they said the average meal takes 9 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
And she said, we're at the table for an hour.
Yes.
And I said, okay, why don't you go get your iPad and grab the time? She didn't have fun. I Google how much time, Italians, French, Moroccan. She's like, oh my God, 2 hours and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours.
This is fascinating.
I said, okay, so don't judge.
Yeah.
Because 9 minutes is not okay.
Okay, so I've heard you talk about, how you grew up as a child, right? You had snacks when you came in the door that were real food. You gathered around a dinner table that was not only like an appetizer, entree, and then a dessert. And we haven't talked about exactly what those desserts were yet, but I imagine that they weren't like the ice cream sandwiches that my kids love to eat.
Yeah.
But there's another big part of this, which is the communal aspect. And you've been able to do that within your own home.
Yeah.
Now that your daughter is a teenager, and I think that's fascinating that she came home and for once kind of started to push back on this lifestyle at 14 years old, which is amazing that it took her that long.
She did it She did it younger. She did it 11 or 12, but it was more trying to understand why it takes us so long.
Right. When other families that she's
the slowest eater of the three of us. So we can't, she can't really, because she always takes her time, which, by the way, she never has enough time to eat at school. So there are downsides of raising your child the Mediterranean way. The food thing doesn't fit, right? So when she goes to school, it's 20 minutes for lunch. It's too short for her.
Right.
So
she doesn't really eat.
She doesn't really eat. So now we've switched it. She has a snack at lunchtime, and at 3 p.m., we bring her lunch. She eats her lunch and she does sports. So then it works, and then we eat late. We do eat. We still have that
sit down together
because we inherently eat later than most people, Mediterraneans do.
Mm-hmm.
So even though she started ballet when she was younger, or we always eat when she comes back. So it can be 8 p.m. and we just are sitting at the table.
I have so many things going through my head right now because what you're describing is so different than what we're being told now by a lot of wellness influencers, right? You should be stopping your eating by 6 p.m., at least 2 hours before you go to bed. You should be fasting. You should be doing all of these other different hacks and these optimizing habits that I don't hear you talk about at all in the way that the Mediterraneans live their life. I haven't heard they all go to the infrared sauna. I haven't heard they're all jumping in cold plunges.
Yeah, well, I'm sure some do, but definitely that is not something you will find, like the 12, 16-hour fast. Or dinners are late in all of the Mediterranean countries.
Yeah.
Because you eat, everything's later. By the way, when we were kids, and it still is the case now, kids go home for lunch. My parents, we all went home for lunch. We had lunch together.
They still do that?
They still do that. So the only places they don't do that are like American school, which is, there are a lot of American schools now there with expats, but so they do the 3 o'clock and then you leave. But by the way, for me as a parent here, working parent, I would love for Amelia to be done at 5, not 3. And then because no one is done with work at 3.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think the lunch at home, I remember, this is a funny story. You asked me about breakfast. We have breakfast together. We still do here. But when I was growing up, same thing. We all get up, we have breakfast together. And then my mother would have already made lunch. So we always knew, because she was working too. We always knew what lunch was going to be when we wake up. You wake up and you're like, okay, this is what we're having for lunch. She already made lunch, and it's all from scratch. It's not pasta or, it's a real.
This is the original trad wife.
Yes.
Really done.
But she had a great, she was a teacher at the school we went through too. So she would take us with her and then come back and have lunch at home. My parents took their little nap, like 15, 20 minutes, and then we'd go back.
Unbelievable.
And we come back around 5, and that's when we had the little snack, typically bread and cheese and some fruits or something, but just to be able to hold up, because we don't eat until 8.
So it seems like there wasn't this big industrialization of the food in Europe and in the Mediterranean, because there was a period of time in the United States where these TV dinners and these frozen foods became almost like a standardized way of eating in the American home, where these microwave dinners. And it seems like that trend never crossed the pond.
No.
Never went across over to Europe and into the Mediterranean. And that's sounds to me to be like one of the more important things, because they were able to maintain cooking from scratch,
right?
Gathering for longer dinners around the table, not rushing and putting something in a microwave.
Right. Well, so that's, you would be shocked how many people don't own a microwave. They don't own one. And, because we live in the US, we go back and ask, I have a microwave in my house. We never use it.
Yeah.
Like, we never use a microwave. Even, when we want to make hot chocolate, still put it on the stove, because then it boils and then you put the chocolate and it's like all. But I think it really is about the culture around food versus eat to be or feel a certain way.
Yeah.
It's not goal-oriented.
It's interesting because I think the Mediterranean diet has been popularized here in this effort for longevity and studying these cultures, like the blue zones. Now there's a name for these areas.
I watched and read that.
Yeah, in the country that where people live the longest. And typically they're following exactly what you've described. But it's not because they're trying to beat the clock, right? They're not trying to reverse their age. They're not fighting against they're not anti-aging.
They're not. I mean, you know, that's, I think, another side that helps them age is they don't think about aging as a problem. Aging is a blessing. If you're there when you're 60 or 70, then you're blessed, right? Because you've lived all that time and you're 80 or 90. So every wrinkle, everything is a part of. It's a privilege to.
How old are your parents right now?
My dad's 81 and my mom turned 78 today.
78.
Yes. So my parents live in the middle of a city. They're never by themselves. There's always people. So what I was going to get into is, I think it's not just the food. I think it's the community as well. So the food helps, but they get together and the food is there. That's what they share. Because there is no home you would walk into and not get anything. In fact, when my parents used to visit, you walk in or somebody walks in, are you going to serve something? I'm like, well, no, if they want something, they'll ask. Like, I offer water or coffee. That doesn't exist. You go somewhere, you sit, there's tea, there's food, there's sometimes, so the nuts are a big part of what you serve when you have guests. You bring a big bowl with all of these different nuts and it may be honey. And if you made bread that day, you bring some bread and just to share, right? So you cannot leave without eating. They will insist that if you come into a house, you have to eat something. So I think it's more about bringing.
But how do you adjust that? Okay, so here you are. You've got an amazing career. You're very busy. You have an extremely social lifestyle. You're very involved in your community. You are very involved with your daughter's life, and she's been a ballerina for an extended period of time. That was a very large time commitment. Now she's an incredible volley player, another very large time commitment. When you go back and you walk into these houses, isn't it an adjustment? Are you thinking to yourself, we got to go. We have to go to the next thing?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we do feel we're slower than everyone else here. Which is part of the reason we have one child. And I also career and all that. I had Amelia when I was 40. So because I wanted to have the time to go pick her up at school, take her to her activities, do all these things with her, right? And I didn't want to be running around or doing what you're describing because I think I don't have it in me. I can't function that way. It's, so I'm lucky. Amelia and I are super lucky. My husband's an amazing cook. He loves to cook. He doesn't like.
So I'm so glad you brought that up because one of the things that you're saying right now, and you and I have talked about this before, is the importance of having a partner that supports you in this lifestyle.
Yes.
Because many women are doing all of it on their own. They are the ones driving the carpool, trying to make the meals.
Right.
You're really lucky that you've got this husband who supports you, and I'm so glad you brought that up. In any conversations you and I have ever had, you've talked about that. Given that many women feel this pressure to be able to do it all. One of the things I've always admired about you is that you don't give in. You don't give up just because it becomes hard or it becomes, you do find this way to stay dedicated. And I know Kareem is a big part of that, but what would you say to a woman who's trying to do it on her own?
Get your husband to do it with you.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
So, I think as women in the United States, we don't.
So that's also a cultural thing. So a lot of times, and I say this to my friends, and I don't say my husband's helping me. He lives in that. Why is he helping you? You're helping him. It shouldn't be the woman's responsibility to do it all, whether she works or not, right? Because sometimes, all the top chefs are men. Right? In the world, like all the time.
So men can cook.
Men can cook really well. And I have to say that one of the things I admire about Kareem is that I can do if I want to cook. He can decide within 10 minutes what he's making.
Right.
And then half an hour later, it's an amazing meal. And,
Yeah, I think there are some women who I know who have husbands like that.
Yeah. And
I do think that your message is really important. Ask for that help.
Correct.
Don't feel like you have to carry the entire burden of the family's wellness and their health on your shoulders when there's someone else that you can ask for help.
Right. I think it's important. And I think it's important when you have daughters that they see that it's a partnership, not...
And sons to see that their dads are stepping in.
Dads are stepping in. They're doing, Is
that typical in Morocco?
Yeah.
Or to be a partnership?
Yes, my mom was the cook, but my dad was the activity person. So my mom would never, she didn't like it, would never take us to do anything because she was a teacher. So after she's done with kids.
Yeah.
So my dad, the best memories I have of going biking or doing all these things. And my mom would say, they just went out yesterday. Why are you taking them again? He's like, no, let's go. So, it's still like that, very much like that.
So sharing the responsibility.
And it doesn't matter who's doing what, but no one, I think it's a little bit more natural in some of those cultures to have that. But I think in every culture, women do more. Mm-hmm. Here, there, But for me, I think you and I talked about it, and actually I used that. You told me one day, 1, 2, 3, and go. Every morning.
Yes, 1, 2, 3,
let's go. 3, let's go.
Get up.
Even if you're not ready, you just, and to me, I think it's the same thing. If that, just like what I was saying earlier, if you make bread every few days, then it becomes what you do, and you just do it.
Yeah.
If you make sure you have dinner together, and that's what you want to do, then it becomes a habit.
Well, and one of the things that I want to say is it's not too late to start now. If someone's hearing this podcast today, they could actually start slowly and gently asking for more support or saying, these are the things that I really enjoy and the responsibilities of our family. Can you help me with this? Or can we find a way to get more help with?
This is what I find.
The grocery shopping, the planning, the cleaning, all of these things that are required.
I think make it a family, I did a lot of this when Amelia was younger. I would just book cooking classes when we travel everywhere, and then so they learn that everyone is cooking. Maybe the husband that doesn't think he should cook is learning, hey, we can do this together.
Like this. Yeah.
You like this.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend that. Even
there's a great place in Georgetown now called Skillet.
Yes.
And it is so cute. And they've got great cooking classes. And that might be a place where a woman or a wife or the husband, the mom or the dad might learn that they love to cook
together. I mean, it's great for date night. There are a lot of places now you can go cook. I mean, even Sur la Table does some easy ones. Yeah. And you can go as a couple and cook, and
that's fun.
Eat what you're doing, but take your kids when they're younger, so then they learn that that's a part of just what you do as a family, right? Is the meal is important, because if you don't have a meal around the table, then when do you share your day if you're just passing each other?
Well, statistics show that children learn their healthy habits from their parents. More than anywhere else, they learn it around the family table. And so that's really important to set the example. And honestly, it's more important, and this is something we should talk about, it's more important than just saying this is healthy or this is not healthy.
Right.
You have to model the behavior. And that's a conversation you and I have had a million times, which is, how do you talk to your children about how to eat those foods that we know are more nourishing for their bodies, but unfortunately now the conversation is that's good for you or bad for you.
Yeah. So I think, you and I have talked about this a lot. And when Amelia was little, we were saying it earlier, I cut up everything, gave it to her. Whatever we ate, her favorite snack was Greek yogurt with cut up dried figs at 1.5, which my pediatrician told me she's going to choke. She can't do it. I mean, but all the other kids do it overseas, right? So you feel a little bit less stressed out. I mean, I did watch her when she did that. And then she would walk around with like this big bag of figs and nuts. And so, but I think the reality is if you don't talk about it, just serve it. Right. I think the problem is we talk too much about this is good for you, this is healthy, just make it taste good.
Yeah.
I won't eat broccoli in, boiled broccoli or it doesn't taste good to me. So I won't eat it. Healthy or not, I am not eating it. Right. But if it's, roasted with garlic and olive oil, everyone will eat it.
Yeah.
So I think you have to learn to cook and make it tasty, and then don't call it healthy.
Right. It's just food.
It's just food.
Right. And it's a good meal that everyone enjoys. I really try to do that at home now with my children. Just make the food, put it on their table. And I always say, especially to my health coaching clients, you're in charge of what goes on the plate. They're in charge of what goes in their body. And let the discussion stop there.
Yeah.
Because I think it creates a lot of stress, and that's the last thing that you want around the dinner table.
Right. And that's the other thing. I never tell Amelia what to eat, what not to eat. When she was little, we would go to birthdays, you and I discussed this, and she would recognize what a fishy is and all of these things, because we don't buy them. Not because I don't want to buy them, but because we didn't grow up with them, so I don't know what they are, right? So we always laugh about these things when we went to birthdays and she saw an Oreo for the first time, and all the parents she doesn't know what an Oreo. I'm like, I don't know what an Oreo is, so I didn't buy it.
Right.
And now she's going to school. But I think actually this is, super important for anyone who has little kids, because that was an experiment with Amelia. I didn't, just because it's not in our culture to say, don't eat this, don't eat that, you just eat whatever, because all the food around you is healthy.
Yeah, right.
So when we went to birthdays and I didn't say anything. She ate whatever she wanted, and you just make sure that when she gets home or before, she has a real good meal. And she grew up, maybe for the first 5 years, she tried different things. And she would tell me, I don't like those fish things. Mm-hmm. I said, well, I would say, why? She was 3 years old. They stick to your palate. And I tried one, and it does.
Yeah.
You feel the cheese,
texture.
And so I think you and I talked about this at some point. I think you have to train their palate when they're young by giving them all these other foods you eat as an adult. There is no children food, by the way, in France or Morocco.
Right.
Which I have a lot of
my children's menus at the restaurant.
A lot of my friends who are American who go to France, they're very upset because there are no kids menu, right? In restaurants.
Right.
Well, I think that's a telling sign. Why would you need a kid menu? Should they just eat whatever you're eating?
Right.
And then when they try something that's processed, they're not going to like it, just like we don't like it.
I mean, I have to be honest, I don't know when that started happening here. When kid food became different than the parents' food.
Right.
And that is a big...
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, when we moved here 30 years ago, we didn't have a child, so we didn't know. But when she started school, we would go to these parents and kids things, and she would come, she was like, Mom, can I eat from the adults buffet, because they only have chicken nuggets.
Right. That's what she was used to, your food, not the chicken nuggets.
She would come and eat cheese, eat everything. And I have to say, it bothered some people. It bothered some parents that my 3-year-olds came to the adult food. Right. They're supposed to stick them. I'm sorry, she doesn't eat it. So I think we drive that behavior.
Right. I do think that's important.
I mean, you have 4 kids, so I wanted to tell there were 3 of us, and obviously we wanted some, we all had our favorites. The way my parents handled it was it's a rotation. Today it's your favorite food, tomorrow it's yours.
Oh, that's a good
No one gets an order.
That's a good tip.
We all eat the same thing. Today is not necessarily what you like, but that's what you have for dinner.
That happened to me literally just this week. I woke up one morning and my kids all wanted a different breakfast. I had a request for fried egg, a request for scrambled eggs, and then a request for a smoothie. I said, absolutely not. This is not a restaurant.
Yes.
We're going to flip a coin. But we're going to go with eggs, since 2 people want eggs, and we're going to flip the coin. And whoever wins, whether it's scrambled or fried, that's what we're having. And to be honest, at first they complained.
Yeah,
and then they were fine. They all had scrambled eggs, and they were fine.
They can have smoothies. Yeah. Everyone has smoothies the next day. I mean, that's one of the things that teaches them. Food is a community thing. You can't choose what you're eating. You can do that when you go to a restaurant.
Right.
But when you're eating, so you can't say, I don't like this.
Right.
It doesn't matter, because, I mean, the parents, my generation said, well, if you don't like it, then just no dinner today. How about that? I mean, literally, that's what they did. And you just ate. Right. Now it's oh, you don't want this. What about this? What about that?
So interesting. I mean, okay, let's start to kind of bring this home for people so that we can talk about some things that they can do right now in their lives to live a little bit more in the Mediterranean way. Because I know that a lot of the people who will end up listening to this may sound overwhelming, because It sounds like such a beautiful way to live. It's a way that we all know would make all of us probably feel better. But we're so far gone. We've been born and raised. I mean, I grew up on Oreos, Doritos. My favorite meal used to be a grilled cheese with Kraft mac and cheese, and make a box of the mac and cheese. That was all very processed.
Yeah.
So I know that a lot of people still live a life that has a lot of those processed foods in it. I see it with my children, as many of my friends, of course, know, with the divorce. Like, we've got my children over at their dad's house that live a very different way than they do at my house, most of the time. I mean, they still cook really well over there too, though. But I think where I'm trying to go with this is, what things that do y'all do here, especially in the United States and DC, to keep this Mediterranean lifestyle? Are there products that you've sought out that are like really wonderful and that we could all find? Are there snacks that you feel better about giving to your daughter?
I'm glad you bring that up. Okay, so I'll talk about the second part, the snacks first.
Yes.
If you eat 3 really good meals, you actually don't need to snack. So snacks are not predominant in other cultures.
I just saw Dan Boitner say that, the man who wrote Blue Zones.
Yeah, because
he recently came out and said, if you want to pursue longevity, stop snacking.
So I think they don't do the 16-hour the fasting, but they don't eat. You have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you're a kid, because dinner is at 8, you come back from school and you have sports afterwards or something, or homework, you have a little snack at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. But the reality is, if you eat well, and I don't know which one comes first, because sometimes I feel like the snacks here are so big, then the kids are not hungry an hour later or an hour and a half because they had too much snack. So it's okay to say, no, don't eat your snack. We're having dinner. Let's just have dinner now, like in half an hour.
Right. Sometimes we have dinner really early.
Because if they're super hungry, it's better than they just start eating snacks. I think when we moved here 30 years ago, it was very hard, but I think everyone can live the Mediterranean lifestyle now here, because
give us some tips.
You can, so for vegetables, and I mean, you have to enjoy this, but it is a really nice thing to do on a Sunday or, Wednesday. There are markets everywhere, but go to the market. It's still not, there's a market every day where I grew up, or in France, or you can go buy, everyone can buy their food there. And it is more, I was talking to Karim's niece who lives in Toulouse, and this Sunday I said, we're at the market, and she said, I just came back from it. And she's like, I said, it's much better. We couldn't get that out of us. We still buy things at the market. And she said, it's cheaper than going to the supermarket.
Wow.
Yeah. Which it was when I was a student. Yeah. When I was a student, I wouldn't go to the supermarket. I would go to
It's unfortunate, because here
unfortunately here it's more. So if you have the ability to do that, though, I think that's how you start eating seasonal, and then you feel better because you're not eating, your body.
Food that's shipped from New Zealand.
Somewhere. And also, if you look at how, like, citrus, or, it's the fall, it's vitamin C, it's because we're going in a cold season. There's a reason for all of these things.
Right.
And so when you start eating that way, I think it just makes you feel
try to eat seasonally.
Yes.
Okay. Give us some products. What are your favorite? Like, Morocco is known for its olive oil or its olives.
So I think even if I have nothing at home, okay, I always have good bread. I always have good olive oil, good olives, which even to my house, there's always food. but I don't think you can get that satisfaction from a bagged something.
Right.
Which happens to me too. If I'm somewhere I can't, with the tournaments, with the volleyball, I tried. I eat like a bar or something because there's no food.
I never get
I'm
on those.
I'm hungry. I'm still hungry. And, and the result is we bought coolers. And so it's doable. It's more work. But if your kids are in sports, you can buy them a mini cooler and make them wraps at home and make real food.
Right.
Take it with you.
Take it with you.
And don't give in to the multiple packages.
Here's a food example. If you packed a little cooler for Amelia to go to her volleyball tournament, what are you putting in there?
Okay. I put a Greek yogurt. I put some Manuka honey sticks, because when they play like 5 games, tournaments are long, so she can have some of those. then I typically make a wrap because, she doesn't eat sandwiches. Or I bought one of those compartment things and I would put some grass-fed meat like I brought earlier.
The beef jerky.
The beef jerky, the steak one, not because
like
she doesn't like
steak.
grass-fed steak. And then I would put one of them is salty, so it'd be olives, pieces of cheese, meat cut up like that. And then another one is sweet, so it'll have berries because they tend to stay, grapes sometimes, no bananas or apples or anything. So it gets brown, but things that she can eat like that, and she eats them. And otherwise, all of these convention centers it's fried food, and I've seen kids eat at 10 a.m. eat fried chicken or fried.
Yeah.
So I think it's super important to start. The pediatrician tells you not to do that, but if you give them your food when they're 1, if you're not eating processed food, like you're eating fresh food, then they don't like it because she's 14. I don't tell her what to eat.
But it's interesting because what I've seen with my children is that even if I add in one healthy thing and crowd out one processed thing, it starts to work. You can't overhaul the whole pantry, but you can add in one thing. So for example, this beef jerky that you showed me before we started recording is a really good brand, and I'll certainly share that with the viewers. But there are products that are better, and that they're packaged, but they're real food, and you can use that. Like cheese is a great example. The olives are a great example. Nuts and seeds if your children have allergies. Yogurt,
the Greek yogurt, it's really good.
It's a beginning to have a stocked house with those types of things. So
and the market has really good. Like if you go to the market on Sundays, they have really good that I think all kids would love. I mean, some kids don't like yogurt, including mine. But that yogurt she eats, because
from the farmer's market.
From the farmer's market, the Greek yogurt.
Okay.
And I get just a plain one, and then you can put strawberries in it or whatever. But it tastes much better, and then she puts honey on top. It tastes better even though it doesn't have sugar.
I mean, my kids love the Greek yogurt from the grocery store too.
So to me, that's better than the bar.
Right.
If they're playing sports, I mean, that's like 13, 14 grams of protein for their muscles. And then the honey helps her with energy. So, and fruits but they're just not packaged foods, because those, I feel like you're not satiated when you eat those, right? And she's the same way. If there's a day where there's nothing and that's what she eats, she's still hungry at the end.
Right.
Yeah. At the end of it.
Okay, so we need to incorporate more natural foods.
Yeah.
Okay, right? So you talked about going to the farmer's market, kind of populating the dinner table with these 3, like the appetizer, and then the main entree, and then dessert.
Try that. I mean, I think that
it's like fruits and things like that.
Try the fruits. Because we still do that. It's 3 of us, but we put like one of each. We'll put like one, some berries, and then we'll put one pear and one apple, and then we cut it up, and we have 3 plates, and then we share it.
Okay, and that's how dinner goes. So we've got the appetizer, the entree, the fruit plate for dessert. The snacks are a little bit more natural snacks when you come home. The Greek yogurt is a great tip. The beef jerky, if you're on the road, that's a good thing to grab.
Yes.
The olives, the cheeses. And so we've got a good idea now.
Basically, and then when you go to the supermarket, don't go in the middle. Just
go the perimeter. And the mindset to go back to try to enjoy slower, longer meals with your family and with your friends, and have people over and enjoy life, and don't talk about the macronutrients.
And
make beautiful, healthy
something
food
that tastes good. And people come and eat it and enjoy it.
You don't have to be healthy. Just eat delicious food.
Yes, and I think that is the biggest problem. And I think it's in our culture, right? We want a goal. Everything we do
with a goal.
It's always there's a goal. So even with food now, there's a goal. I'm like, I'm just eating because it tastes good.
Right.
And if you do that and the kids learn that, then I don't think it becomes as difficult as an adult, because you're just eating because it tastes good to you. Right. There is no way that, I don't know, Dorito tastes better than a fish in the oven with olives and olive oil and lemon and, and you're sitting and eating that. Why would it taste? No, there's no way. So if they learn to do that at a young age and eat it because you're making it from life, I think I think it's the adult's job, right? It's
Yeah.
our job to do that.
We
make
do
the
have to
effort.
parent.
And yes,
We do have to set
and
an
stay
example.
with them. And
Yeah.
but like I said, I think we are too focused on the sports and everything. And really what they need is what you said earlier. The best conversations happen at the table. What they're going to remember is not you driving them everywhere to go. They're going to remember the time you're spending with
looking
them,
at them and enjoying
and talking, and nothing else is happening.
Okay, so to end this on a really practical note for anyone watching, what is one Mediterranean dish that people watching could make at home this week?
Okay, I'm going to try to think about something less labor intensive. One of our favorite, including my 14-year-old, easy, is make us, because it's three things, right? So the salad is cucumbers and cherry tomatoes and Kalamata olives and feta cheese, some red onions, olive oil, and lemon, and tons of herbs. That's your first thing you eat, and of course salt.
So cucumber tomato salad, basically, with all the good stuff.
Yes, I think for them, I don't know. She really likes that combination of
the feta
with the onions and the olives, and better than just tomatoes and cucumbers by themselves. And then for the dish, I would say probably roasted chicken. I feel like that's the thing she likes the most, and us too. And then the roasted chicken is really easy to make, and we rub it with olive oil, lemon, lots of cumin, and coarse salt. You have to get...
I've had this chicken.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's really good. And then you just roast it. It's so easy. You just put it in
tons of cumin. The skin on that chicken is
like brown.
Yes.
And
crispy and spicy.
And all you do is rub it in.
Not spicy hot, like spices. Like
no, it's not spicy, correct. It's really a few things. It's cumin, salt, a spoon of Dijon mustard, not the sweet
honey mustard.
And that's how you make it like sort of a paste with olive oil. And then you rub the whole thing and you stick it in the oven while they're doing their homework, whatever it is, right? And then take that out. You have your salad, you have that. And then take a bowl, put whatever fruits you have, and there's your dinner.
Yum.
That's it.
That's perfect.
Very easy.
Okay, Hanane, thank you for joining us and for recording this with me today. I think that everyone now has a real picture of what a Mediterranean life really looks like, what a Mediterranean diet is really made of, and it's not just food.
No,
it's so much more than that.
Yes.
So thank you all for listening. And I hope you watch this conversation and feel really inspired to incorporate some of these amazing tips that Hanane has delivered today into your life and for you and your family.